Hello, everyone. Cooperman257 here with Robin, Red Robin or Robin, as we're here to discuss the live-action One Piece Season 1.
in in hype for season 2 in this year, and then season 3 probably in about 2070.
Yeah, 2027, but yeah, arguably, but hopefully. I mean, from my understanding, they did them back-to-back due to the film strike and all that stuff, but yes. We're discussing the acclaimed Season 1, 2023, just before Season 2 comes out in a few days. Arguably, I meant to do this sooner, but let's see, some delays happened, but yeah. But we're here to do Season 1 as we discuss the live action from 2003 for those who are hiding from a show. I'm, of course, referring to, let's see, this series here, One Piece live action, based on the manga Ichiro Oda's, let's see, pop iconic manga series from 1997, still going on even to this day. Which,
the best selling comic of all time.
Oh yes, as that's recently also surpassed Superman comics, as One Piece has managed to sell 600 million copies of its volumes. Though, granted, for all we know, Superman's Superman's comic sales hasn't been updated yet. But at the moment, One Piece has gone on the top. Oda's done a promotion for that. But yeah, but most people are looking forward to, of course, is the season 2 of live action One Piece. But yeah. Now, granted, for those who don't know, I think, let's see, season 1 of One Piece has been sort of like live action One Piece was in the talks for years before it came out. Some people even wondering if it was going to come out at all, I believe.
Yeah, I think I remember vaguely reading early on they were talking about it being a film, and then they were debating for a while whether they wanted a couple of films or a series, and well, we know what they landed on.
Oh yeah. Now, granted, let's see, arguably for many people, doing a live action adaptation of One Piece seemed like impossible to do, partly due to the fact that, well, given how it's so long, and if you take a sort of I guess look at what the art style of Oda's here, as you can see from this Ritzy volume, One Piece is arguably a very goofy pirate series, arguably the most goofiest of what was then known as the Big Three at the time, like shonen manga. So it's like Naruto and Bleach would feel a lot more realistic to adapt into movies or live action. Heck, I believe there's still talks of trying to do a live action Naruto. And Bleach, well, Bleach actually has a live action adaptation of a movie, but yeah. But
it should also be mentioned that when these things get adapted into live action, it doesn't tend to work out too well. Some examples: Ghost in the Shell, Death Note. We were talking about doing a live action Kira, but that's been in development hell for years. Full Metal Alchemist, it just doesn't really tend to work out whenever they transition to live action, but this one has actually pulled it off.
Oh yeah. Other examples that you could go with is Dragon Ball Evolution, which still to this day remains infamous for Dragon Ball fans. And ironically enough, another live action show done by the same studio that did this, Cowboy Bebop.
Which I forgot that existed.
Yeah. And this is the same studio that did it. So when these guys would like announce to do it, you can probably tell there was some worries, but yeah. Now, arguably, one advantage this show had was that it had Ichiro Oda taking part, because arguably, I think Oda realized that a live action of One Piece would arguably perhaps bring in audiences that would not either give it a chance with its length or its comic book style, I guess, or maybe the anime, I guess, or maybe you just thought like live, or perhaps knew that live action is usually something that draws people in. Heck, it's the reason why Disney keeps, for the most part, makes $1 billion off of most of their properties, minus, like, say, Snow White.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it got Oda's involvement in, and I think the showrunner for at least the first 2 seasons, a man named Matt Owens, at the time, sort of like was a huge fan of One Piece, and from what I understand, he knew quite a lot about the lore of the show.
Yeah, I think what separated, like you were talking about Dragon Ball Evolution, I think of what separated those. Also, well, I could have said it's not an anime, but Avatar that didn't work out well live action the first time. But anyway, what really probably was the difference here was who had creative control. Since it was Oda, basically had the final say on everything.
Oh yeah,
If something was shit and it wasn't true to form, he could have just said no and it wouldn't have happened. So
oh
I think
yeah,
that may have been the main difference.
oh yeah. I think one thing that, from my understanding, is that they would do often reshoots until they got it, until Oda said they got it right. So that also played a huge factor into it.
Well, Oda is, from what I know, a bit of a perfectionist. So if it's not how he likes it, to the degree he likes it, he'll just say do it again.
Yeah. The only thing I understand that he needed persuading on was the Marine subplot storyline, as I think he was very reluctant on that one. But we'll get to that one perhaps in a bit later. But yeah. But arguably, so basically for years, this was in the talks. Oda got involved, which arguably, Gritzy for some probably was a reassurance. And over time, eventually it's revealed that Netflix ended up having it. So like that, and
That allowed them to spend mega money on the effects, which I think for something like this you would need.
arguably yes, given how creative One Piece could arguably be, but once that was done and all that stuff, one thing people were wondering about is like the cast, because arguably Monkey D. Luffy is perhaps one of the most difficult characters to adapt.
Well, yeah, it's trying to find the actor that can pull off the personality is hard enough. Never mind the mannerisms and just general uh, as a person. That is not the easiest to adapt.
Yeah, arguably he is the most difficult Richie Shonen protagonist to adapt because he's so goofy. The only ones that might be more difficult are ones that are maybe like full-blown parody series. But yeah. But they managed to find that with Inike Goodway Jasa, I believe. Let's see. And from what I can tell, everyone seems to agree that he plays the perfect Luffy.
Oh, he's Mexican? I thought he was Brazilian. My bad.
Well, I know Luffy's, let's see, nationally supposed to be Brazilian, but arguably, I guess they found they didn't find that. Instead, they found someone from Mexico, and arguably.
They landed on a guy who looks exactly like him, which is a stroke of luck.
Oh yeah, exactly like him, and also is able to act like Luffy, or at least arguably a more live action, toned down one. But let's see, not the cartoony Goofy you'd see in the anime or manga. But then again, that's sort of hard to do. But rather, let's see, someone that's able to play the optimism and its enthusiasm and all that stuff. Because, from my understanding, there are some people that are put off the English dub of One Piece. I'm not including the 4Kids one. I'm talking about the Funimation one as well, because apparently the Luffy voice actor sounds too annoying to them and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that just shows, but yeah. But one thing that I think when people were hoping for live action was arguably because when the big three first came out in the 2000s, Naruto, Bleach skyrocketed in popularity in the West, partly because of their cool voice, cool action, and also voice acting, I guess. Yeah. But One Piece had the unfortunate 4Kids dub, which made it even goofier than it arguably is, and did a lot of changes to censor some stuff, and even cut some arcs, but gave quite the bad reputation.
Changes cigarettes to lollipops and everything.
Oh yeah, so that didn't really work, but yeah. But so all that kind of stuff, and not to mention some very problematic voice acting, from my understanding. But yeah, no, I will admit, I did get into One Piece thanks to the Alabasta arc, which I did see in the 4Kids dub. So it didn't put off me, it seems, at the very least. But yeah, but nevertheless, it's the only thing that most people now remember it for, maybe positively or not, is the One Piece was its rap opening. Gago, gago. But that's arguably about it. But yeah, but for some people, that was a first impression that's put off. Granted, I think there were quite a fair share of people to also be put off by the art style. So the live action was a way to get probably fans who either think the animation art style was too goofy, or of their first impressions either by, I guess, the English dub or even the 4Kids dub put it out. So yeah, but yeah, and as I said, they got the perfect Luffy for that. There's also some other very good, let's see, characters. You got Emily Rudd as Nami, Manakeyami Madara as, Ronan Zoro. I think it's quite the pro in live action for other Japanese animation. Usopp is portrayed by Jacob Gibson, and Task Skylar as Sanji. You've sort of got like you got basically them. You've got a bunch of other sort of like characters, but yeah. Now let's see. So arguably, yes. So you got quite a bit from like let's see. You had a few other recurring characters throughout the season, like Kobe, Garp, Hamepo, Buggy, Arlong. Basically, majority of the characters which did show up in the East Blue and all that stuff. So yeah, they all show up. You got the casting. So what?
Shout out to the guy that played Buggy, because that was 1-for-1.
Oh yeah, that gave a lot of people Joker vibes in a sense. So yeah, a lot of people ended up. Let's see, you got quite the casting, arguably perfect casting. The only people wondering about is the show going to be good? And well, for those who have watched the East Blue saga, know that it follows like the early beginnings of the Straw Hat Pirates, basically after showing the Pirate King's execution and everyone going on for the hunt of the One Piece. You're joined by Luffy, who ate the gum fruit, which gives him rubber powers, but as a result, he can no longer swim. Let's see. End up promising like his pirate mentor, if you will, Redhead Shanks, that he would make his own pirate crew, become king of the pirates, is given his straw hat and all that stuff. So he goes on an adventure where he encounters, of course, Ronan Zoro, a swordsman that uses 3 swords, whose dream is to become the world's greatest swordsman after promising a dead friend that they would do so. Followed by navigator Nami, who has a bit of a dislike of pirates, but has a love of treasure and stealing. At the very least, seems as willing to team up with Luffy for like East Blue. Then you've got like the coward and the liar Usopp, whose father was a member of Shanks' pirate crew. As a result, who left him as a young kid, if you will. As a result, he resorted to lying just to ease the pain, if you will. But with dreams of becoming a brave warrior of the sea someday, like his father. And then, of course, you also have like Sanji, a cook that only fights with his feet, who was like once stranded with like a pirate who would eventually become his mentor, Red Cook Zeph, I believe, or Red Leg Zed, I believe. But yeah, or Seth. Let's see, as As you get introduced to each one of these members, they join the crew, and then they head to and hope to go to the Grand Line. But along the way, of course, they encounter, let's see, villains such as the corrupt Marine Captain Axan Morgan, the infamous pirate Buggy the Clown, who has a history with Shanks, the pirate Captain Kuro, and the dreaded fisherman pirate who had taken over Nami's village and destroyed her family, if you will, Arlong. You encounter all those pirates. That's generally what happens in the manga, but of course there's a few added differences in this, because in the first arc, after Luffy has freed this hostage from a pirate named Elvida, Kobe, who ends up joining the Marines. Let's see, Luffy's grandpa, Garp, realizes that Luffy's trying to make a go for the pirate, to be a pirate, tries to stop him, and ends up recruiting, Kobe, and then Hamapo, an enemy turned friend, if you will, in order to pursue them. As we see, he goes to throw out various parts of the islands that Straw Hats go to, eventually tasking Draco Mihawk, or Hawkeye, if you will, one of the 7 warlords and known as the world's greatest swordsman, who Zoro decides to defeat to go after them. But of course, Hawkeye, being impressed with the Straw Hats, particularly Zoro, decides to let them go, which results in Garp then becoming much more serious to going after them, even though Kobe tries to try to persuade Garp that Luffy is a pirate. He's not ever going to be a Marine and all that stuff. And then eventually he finally catches Luffy arrives where Luffy is after defeating Arlong. They fight, and then Garp finally seems to realize that, okay, Luffy's going to be a pirate, and just revealed that he was actually testing him. And then afterwards, you got the Straw Hats heading off to the Grand Line and all that stuff. So that's arguably basically the plot of season 1. There's a few bits of details, but as you can see, they added like an extra storyline, well, 2 storylines, if you will. Let's see, Garp and the Marines pursuing the Straw Hats, and Arlong, after encountering Buggy, pursuing the Straw Hats. So I go on.
It has been a couple of years since I've watched the live action, admittedly, but since I know the original story anyway, I feel I'm still able to talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Let's see. Arguably, we both like the show, but I'm curious, Robin, what did you make of the changes that they did?
If I can remember, there are certain ones like they expanded more on Kuro as a villain. I
Captain
think
Kuro?
and there was a bit of, I think there was a bit of controversy because I think they cut out the Hypno guy.
Oh yeah, see, a couple of characters were cut out from from East Blue. A minor one, which to be fair was always probably going to be cut out, was that green-haired guy. What was his name? Bushy. One Piece.
Not coming to me now.
Chess guy. I think Gaimon, who was like a one-off chapter where Nami, Zoro, and Luffy stopped before going to Usopp's village. Arguably, he's not in, which, to be fair, probably to expect. You can't really make one full live-action episode on just one chapter. So he was cut out. Then, of course, the Usopp pirates, a bunch of kids that pretend to be pirates along with Usopp, and the only ones that seem to believe their captain, even though they know he's a liar.
Odo would probably hate me for saying this, but the stuff that was cut out, it didn't really change much of the plot for me. It didn't really feel like something was missing.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah. Of course, there was Django for the Black Cat Kuro pirates. One of the other chef that was with Patty, I believe, that often gets into fights with Sanji. And Johnny and his bounty hunter party, Yuka or something, but I can't remember. But those ones are arguably the most notable ones of being cut out. So, but yeah. And some people might notice that I didn't bring up Don Krieg and all that stuff amongst list antagonists. He wasn't cut out, but he was reduced to a role, and instead, Hawkeye completely took him out rather than Don Krieg being the antagonist of Baratier. Instead, that's when Luffy encountered Arlong for the first time, and Arlong defeated him. Which is a massive change.
From what I could be wrong, from what I remember, Don Krieg in the live action is nowhere near the size he was in the original.
Yeah, but to be fair, Arlong is not the same size he was in the in the anime either. Arguably, it'll be hard to imitate like those giant-sized human antagonists. But like Luffy. So, but yeah. But like you said, it didn't really feel like much was left out from doing them. To be fair, I could probably, of the characters that were going to be cut, I could see why these specific characters were cut. Because either you didn't really need them, or there's other ways around of doing them. Heck, the mayor and like that's from the village that Buggy attacked isn't really a major character, nor is the dog. Instead, it's sort of like cameos. I should also probably mention Richie the Lion is cut as well. But yeah, but arguably they're not really necessary. So, or at least there are more of like cameo roles and all that stuff. So I think it's fine that these ones are cut out. They kept the ones that were definitely essential, like Kaya, the chef, Zeph, let's see, Genzo and Nojiko. Let's see, Helmeppo and Gobi and all that stuff. Yeah, arguably all the ones that were basically essential and all that stuff. Now, granted, I will admit, though, for some One Piece fans, arguably, let's see, Django meant that Usopp didn't really get like a really serious character moment, I guess, but particularly in his arc at the very least. But I think it makes sense that Usopp would be less important amongst the, let's see, 5 main casts of this.
Yeah.
Let's see. As Nami has the more emotional core storyline thing, Zoro is the second best fighter, and Sanji is also the other fighter besides Luffy. So, but besides, there's other moments for Usopp to shine in later seasons, if you will. And I think I understand why they did the Arlong and Baratier, because it's like it was just, let's see, Luffy just beating every pirate antagonist one after another would probably have gone a bit too repetitive at that point. So they needed to add a bit more drama and tension with like Nami's betrayal and all that stuff. And also allowed to show the scale of just how powerful Hawkeye was to the audience, that it's like he so easily beated this pirate that got even a slightly higher bounty than the last 2 pirates the Straw Hats faced. So he was arguably the reasonable casualty.
Yeah.
Of that one. Granted, yeah, I know some people, let's see, do like the sort of like Luffy showing Sanji that, let's see, why dreams are worth pursuing and all that stuff, but I think they managed to cover that enough with what they've shown as well. And also, I think some people don't really consider that, since this is a live-action show in modern times, I think after like Game of Thrones, most people sort of like expect multiple like side stories and like at least 1 or 2 side stories in the episode, not entirely focused on like, you know, the main one.
I mean, that's just drama TV in general. It's the whole purpose of it, and this is my film studies mind kicking in. The whole purpose of it is to obviously keep the viewer invested, because if you're jumping between multiple stories, they're not going to get sick of one, and you always leave them guessing with the other.
Yeah, which is arguably also why they end up loosely adapting the let's see, Kobe cover story. Let's see, granted that one, of course, has Morgan's escaping the Marines, but no, he seems to be permanently arrested in the live action.
Yeah.
But yeah, but arguably, I can see why they did that one, because if you just had Buggy and Arlong, you just would see just repeated of Arlong just beating the living daylights out of like Buggy until they find the Straw Hats, which arguably they just showed enough, I think, of what they needed for that one. It's like there's like this race called the Fishmen who have like, well, let's see, apparently stronger than humans, and they're also, let's see, strong swimmers. They easily defeat like the pirate that took a bit of effort from like Luffy, Zoro, and Nami to take down. And see, and then you get to see the big dog, who is apparently the most wanted man in East Blue. And when he learns about Luffy, you know he's coming after him. So arguably, that is like one plot line. It's like waiting for this bad guy to show up, and he finally does in Baratier. And then you got like this other one of Marine, let's see, a Marine Vice Admiral also trying to pursue Luffy. Let's see, with like Kobe, who's joined the Marines and learning about all the sort of stuff that the world government does, such as allowing 7 pirates to do what they want as long as they pledge allegiance to the government. But also learning that Garp is Luffy's grandfather. Now, granted, arguably this were, I'd say, of all the changes that the live action did, the Garp storyline is probably arguably the most controversial amongst, let's see, One Piece fans, since, well, it's you don't really learn that who Luffy's grandpa is until like the end of the 4th saga, if you will. So it's like, you know, with Enies Lobby and all that stuff. But also, from what I can tell, some feel like Luffy had like the lesson of proving he wanted to prove himself ready before, when he was dealing with like the questions of whether or not he's being a captain or not. And then, of course, eventually getting the crew back together to deal with Arlong. So I think for some people, this feels like you could have cut that out, maybe, or at least replace Garp with Morgan's, I guess. Though, if I had to guess, they kept Garp just because of the personal connection he has with Luffy, and also that since the Straw Hats had already beaten Morgan, he wouldn't really be much of a threat to them.
Yeah.
But arguably, I definitely say that one was definitely the weakest resolved. And we've got a comment from someone called Nana KF1CS saying, "Hey guys, nice to see you, Cooper. I subbed to you after your last appearance on Swiss's channel. Never watched or read One Piece. It seems quite daunting given how much there is."
Well, I think that's why part of the reason why the live action was created in the first place, sort of to give people a jumping on point.
Yeah, arguably, with live action, you have an alternative because, well, at the moment, it's got one season out so far, and another season coming out in a few days. But that each about. Sorry, what?
I didn't even know it was this week, to be honest.
It'll be next week, March 10th. For those who don't know, but yeah, March 10th, season 2. But yeah, but let's see, for this show, you've got, let's see, 8 episodes a season. They're about roughly between 50 minutes to an hour. So, arguably, you will, let's see, so yeah, arguably, it condenses down the specific, like a sagas and arcs into like, let's see, into a season. So, arguably, I'd say if you don't want to go through, I guess, 50 or hundreds of episodes, I guess, let's see, to watch One Piece, you can watch this live action. No, granted, I do know that thanks to the success of this live action, Netflix wanted a new anime. Let's see, and they've got the guys who did the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan to do a new to do this anime, and it's called The One Piece. It's not yet out yet, but I think it'll be a much more quicker, let's see, show than I guess the current one by Toei, because Toei has sort of
I
made
will put it
one
this
chapter an
way.
episode. So go on, Robin.
Go ahead.
No, you go first. You said look at it this way.
I started it off when I was I started off when I was about 16, and I've been on and off with it ever since. And even then, I'm not caught up now. Like it's that much to go through.
Oh yes.
So it is a commitment.
It doesn't help that Toei has done the choice of adapting one chapter or even half a chapter into an entire episode. Which arguably normally animes less episodes than the actual manga series, but
Even when reading it, it can take stupidly long time.
oh yes, it's it's a manga that you probably takes time, but yeah, but the live action, at least at the moment, should arguably be quite digestible.
I mean, I'm halfway through Dressrosa at this stage, and again for years I've just been very on and off with it. I'll be on it for a couple of months, then off it for a couple of months. Like that's just the way I've been.
Oh yeah, and I will admit, Dressrosa isn't exactly the best adapted Etsy arc in the anime, but yeah.
Unpopular take so far. I don't mind it.
Okay, well, fair enough, but yeah. But yeah, Nana KF want to see. I think at the very least, try the live action. As far as I can tell, the majority of One Piece fans enjoy it. There's only like a few I know. As far as I can tell, most people who have never given One Piece a chance ended up liking it. Now, the only one that never got fully into it I know of is my own mother when I was trying to see what her reaction would be to the first episode. But my brother ended up spoiling the fact that there's like over 1,000 episodes or chapters. I think that might put her off a bit. But yeah. But let's see, though she sees what I might like it, but let's see. But yeah. So yeah. So if anything, the best way I could describe this series is like a TV show, pirate adventure, Pirates of the Caribbean style show, but with magic devil fruit powers in the mix. That's the best way I can describe it. Which arguably is probably the best way that the show sort of presented itself, because arguably the most popular pirate media in, like, I think you could say in for general audiences was Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, and those were like based off a theme park ride. So yeah. So if you want your sort of piratey adventure, let's see, you can go to the live action One Piece, but yeah. Anyway, where was I? Something about what was that? What was I before that comment came up?
I'm trying to retrace my steps here. Honestly, I'm blanking. Were we on about some of the cast? No, it was after.
I think we're talking. Oh yeah, we're talking about the changes to the season of live action.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about. I think we're talking about the Garp storyline. Yeah, I think let's see the Garp one. For some people, that was way too soon. Let's see, but and also feels like lesson that Garp was trying to teach Luffy, he had already learned it. But yeah, so it felt a bit repetitive at the end. Arguably, and I think this is partly why Oda was very reluctant for this one. This is the one he had to be persuaded to let happen. But I can understand why they needed to do that, because of the whole subplot thing of like what these shows were dramas, especially ones with ongoing storylines. Granted, arguably season 2 would maybe be able to handle this a bit better, because well, they'll be introducing Smoker. Let's see Log Town, which some people thought they were going to cut, but they haven't. And I think they even done a promotion clip about that, where they even have Nami say, "And you thought we were going to skip lockdown." And all that stuff, but yeah.
When they get rounded, I don't know how they're doing Skype.
Yeah, arguably that might be the most difficult one besides the trying to adapt Chopper, which they seem to be doing a good job of that. But anyway, Nana Chris.
Trying to adopt Bellamy on his own will be a challenge.
Oh yeah, but yeah. Nana KF1C says, "Okay, thank you. You can just call me NA like Swiss does. Okay, NA. I like Pirates of the Caribbean. Hunter x Hunter and Death Note are my favorites, but never got through all of them." Okay. Well, Death Note has like 37 episodes, I think, so that's more easily digestible. Though, granted, most people stick with like the first 26 when L is still a lot, where when it's like mostly L, I think. But yeah.
I honestly haven't watched it since I was about 16, 17.
Yeah, and Hunter x Hunter, well, its manga's still ongoing, partly because of like the creator's back pain injuries and all that stuff delays him. But most people stick to the anime, where it had like the 2011 one by Madhouse, where you do where arguably see the main character reach his goal of finding his father. And for some people, that is just fine as an ending, even though there's a few loose threads afterwards. But most people are just happy with what they got. Let's see. He goes like, "I read the manga of Death Note rather than the anime, and then the reverse for Hunter x Hunter." Arguably, that's probably the smart thing to do with arguably for Hunter x Hunter at the very least. But yeah,
I've read the manga for Death Note, and I don't blame you. It is, the artwork is great.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's see. Rather than watch anime, okay. But yeah, yeah. So but yeah. So arguably, I'd definitely say the storyline with Garp was necessary. I can see why they did it, even though I'm not sure they properly executed it. But yeah. One thing I do, let's see, other changes I think we can see is that they sort of made Zoro a little less jokey and a bit more serious in the thing, which arguably I think worked quite well for the first episodes where you had Nami and Zoro trying to say, "We're not in a crew." I do think it makes sense that they included Nami in the sort of romance Dawn arc, if you will, in the first episode, just so that you can establish that Luffy, Nami, and Zoro are like your three main characters, if you will, because they're like the three main Straw Hats, at least for this first season. Because, well, so you have like the Hawkeye fight, Nami, you have the stuff with Arlong, and that's going to be built up with all that stuff. So, and they're like the ones that seem to be, well, at least, let's see, challenge Luffy the most about his like goals of being a pirate or a captain, especially when Zoro gets injured by Hawkeye, and then Luffy is like thinking whether or not he's doing a good job and stuff. So I think it makes sense to try and do that. But one thing I will admit I do like about the live action is how each episode or each island they go, you have the characters changing clothes to that match, like either what they wear in the arc, or they have like or one of the clothes that they end up wearing in a one-piece double spread color or volume cover. Not sure if you noticed that, Open.
Yeah, I think I did at the time. Again, it's been a while since I've seen the live action.
Now, granted, arguably some might say that isn't that a bit weird for characters to change clothes, but in most manga and anime, most shonen protagonists don't really do. Now, arguably, Nami is arguably the one that does end up changing outfits the most, but I think that's just they're trying to show off Nami a bit. But it's not until like later, like near the end of the first half of One Piece, and then the next half, do you see the majority of the cast changing outfits to match the arc, like the arc and all that. But yeah, but I do like that little Easter egg, and in fact, there's all sorts of kind of Easter eggs that you end up seeing throughout series, if you will, such as I think the tale of Nolan the Liar, as that's the story that Nami reads to like an injured Zoro, if you will, and you're not really supposed to hear that story until like Skypiea, though I am curious to see how they will adapt that. I will admit, and but yeah. So there's all like, and also some bounty posters. Even though we mentioned Django wasn't like you did see his wanted post at the very least. So I would be curious to see if they're going to make him into a Marine at the end of the third season or not. But yeah, I mean, you got like full body as a cameo being beaten up by Sanji. So at the dining chef thing. And even though you didn't really get like that plot line between Sanji and Gin, you did like still have the food feeding scene. So you all had like these little small nods. But yeah. And heck, I don't even mind Luffy being beaten by Arlong, which is arguably it takes that away from Crocodile as being the true antagonist to actually defeat Luffy for the first time. But I think Witsy, given the fact that Baratie was meant to be like a low point for the Straw Hats, Zoro's been injured, he might even die. Luffy's questioning his captain, and then Nami backstabs him. I think it all works. So arguably that is spoilers, I guess, for the live action. I should probably say this, but I think whoever watched this knew the risk of that.
I should I do need to preface. I will have to go in like 10 minutes.
Okay, so all right, I suppose we should let's see, get to the point and get more to the point. I suppose I should ask, what was your favorite episode amongst the ones that were done out of curiosity?
It was probably between the Kura one and the Buggy one, purely because the Buggy one was, I guess it needed to be. It was out there to say the least. It was weird. I think the Arlong one was very well done. I keep in mind, this is often the start of One Piece. I haven't seen the start of One Piece since I started reading it, probably about 10 years ago. But I do remember it pretty well. I'm trying to think what other ones.
Arguably the Buggy one I enjoyed. I mean, arguably yes, and they've made it into like a circus ring thing where everyone's forced in there, and instead of Zoro fighting, I mean, I think was it Karibo? He has more of a grudge against him for killing his brother as a bounty hunter. One thing I also liked is that they actually showed Mr. Seven, who Zoro, the original Mr. Seven, who Zoro killed, as that was referenced in Alabasta, and that whole recruitment thing. And he even got reference to Baroque Works when that was Garp was looking into first before going after his grandson. So he's sort of like doing some world building for like the next season. So I thought that was quite clever. But yeah, so I'd say the Buggy episode was definitely a highlight for me. The episode where you're introduced to Mihawk and showing just how much of a threat he is with taking out Don Krieg and then Zoro. And then I suppose the episode after, I'd say was let's see, when you had like Luffy's low point, and then let's see that first fight against Arlong. If I had to say weakest episode, let's see, I guess maybe one of the let's see, I guess maybe the Kuro episodes. I mean, I do like the terror of terror.
I do like how it was done, sort of as a horror episode.
Yeah, because that was like a pirate raid episode. To at least trying to stop a pirate raid. Instead, you have Kuro and his two of his lackeys. One of them, the two Cat brothers, I think. Though granted, one of them was gender bent into a woman, I think. Which
I remember one scene where they had to hide in the walls, and that was pretty tense to watch.
Oh yeah, let's see. Arguably, perhaps maybe Kuro was a bit less intelligent as he was in like the manga, and perhaps a bit more unstable. But I think it works as a sort of horror vibe they were doing with that episode. And though I do think Kobe was a bit of an intimidated idiot a bit. When just seemingly not checking what Usopp was saying about Kuro, but But I guess they just were trying to speed that one up. But so yeah, let's see. And maybe I felt that perhaps the final episode was going by a bit too quick. At least the stuff with Arlong, I thought should have lasted a bit longer. But nevertheless, it was fun action at the very least. But yeah. Luffy was lucky that Garp just decided that he was just testing him. Though, granted, it felt a bit weird that was the case. And I felt like it was just more of a Garp going for a character, and I thought it was more of this Garp going for a character arc of like it's just accepting what Luffy is, as Kobe and Zeph was trying to tell him. But oh well, I guess that is just me. But yeah, I did like the horror vibe was fine and all that stuff. But yeah. Let's see. One change I thought was strange, I guess, was Nami not telling anyone, Nojiko, that from the beginning that, he joined Arlong to like do a berry deal. I'm not sure why she didn't do that, but I can understand. Perhaps I'm not sure why that change was done, but nevertheless, I still think it had the same emotional beats. Whatever chat. I did like Garp interacting with Zeph. That was one change. I thought that was fun. I even like how some of the other Straw Hats get to interact with Buggy, since only really Nami, Zoro, and Luffy do, and they all think he's an idiot and all that whenever he's brought up again. So I thought that was fun. What else is there? I'm trying to think. What other Easter eggs? I'm trying to think. There's so much that what have I said and what have I not said? I'm being terrible right now. Hold on, let me just double check. Oh yeah, one thing that I will give credit to the live action One Piece, what I think has done a little bit. Now, granted, what Oda has put the rule still that no romance amongst the Straw Hats in the live action. Though I will admit, Emily Rudd's Nami and Mayakine's Zoro have quite good chemistry. That I wondered if they feel like a couple vibes kind of thing, as they were the more serious or cynical members of the crew, while Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji were the more cheerful. Granted, I expect Zoro to start naming fighting moves in the next season. As Luffy says it, great fighters call out the moves, and so did Sanji. So I love the banter between the live action Zoro and Sanji. You don't have that comedic fighting bit, but you still have them sort of like name calling. Sanji isn't the whole Nami Swan, but more like a very flirty ladies' man, if you will. Nami is like, they're idiots rather than idiots with the whole scenario comedy slap stick thing, which, to be fair, general audiences might not take well to that.
I think it's in the dub. They just insult each other. Like moss head, eyebrows, and stuff like that. So
yeah.
What are your go on?
But one change I did like is that they actually sort of, fans speculated, but they actually gave a sort of romance to Usopp and Kai. It's like Usopp seemed to like her. He wasn't sure if she liked him back, and then they actually kissed, which some people were surprised. Wait, Oda approved of this? And the one other change I thought worked well was the fact that Mary ended up actually being killed and is dead.
Yeah.
Because the one criticism that One Piece fans will all agree on, and will agree when others try to criticize One Piece, is when it does fake out death. Because Oda would give you those emotional, either shocked or emotional moments of a character dying, only to be revealed later. Nope, he or she survived. If it's not in a flashback.
It's assumed. I think I haven't got that far, but it's assumed. Was it Mr. 3? It's assumed that that didn't end well.
Yeah, let's see. Are you talking about Bon Clay?
Or Mr. 2, or yeah,
Mr. 2. Well, you see that he's alive in a cover story. So let's see. Granted, that it wasn't adapted into the anime, though you see it in the sort of like credits in the One Piece film Red. But
Yeah.
but you can tell that for most but as you can tell, for most people, it's like frustrating, and it tells me that live action show may very well likely keep the characters that died, that didn't die, that should have died but didn't die, dead if they don't feel like they're going to be essential to the story down the line, which arguably would be majority of the characters that ended up dying. So I think that makes sense, because I think if general audience got so many fake out deaths, they wouldn't believe the suspense. And I think that also kind of works because, well, with Don Krieg dead and like Mary dead, you know that some people can die, and Mr. Seven dead. You know that death is a threat there, and you're wondering, is Zoro going to die or not? Even if you don't think he actually is going to die, you at least think the threat of him going to die is going to happen at the very least. Sorry, were you going to say before?
Before I go, what are your expectations for the next season?
Yeah. Well, it's from what I can tell, it seems like I know that they're going up to Drama Island at the very least. So I expect one episode to be Logtown, one episode to be Laboon. Let's see, and I believe maybe let's see, one or two episodes to be. Let's see, what's it called? Whiskey Peak. Yeah, I think it's Whiskey Peak. Two episodes to be Little Garden. And I guess it depends if Whiskey Peak is one or two episodes. I expect Drum Kingdom to be 2 or 3 episodes. Maybe.
Which they will blow the effects budget just on Chopper.
Oh, yeah. Arguably, Chopper will probably be the selling point of make or break for this. Let's see. For many people, the show, because hold on, let me just mute myself for a second. Sorry, my mum entered the room there for a second. I just had to just change to a different room. But yeah, I expect Chopper will be, for many people, for whether or not the show will work long term and stuff, especially like if they are able to do like most of the effects you can with him, this will probably convince people that they can do anything. From what I can tell, it seems like all the major characters that are going to be in the next few arcs, none of them have been cut at the very least. The only exception, I think, is Karoo, which I think they're going to save that for season 3 in Alabasta. I think that's the only character that appears to be cut from like that probably should have appeared in the season, which I think makes sense. I mean, perhaps work on that in the budget for season 3. So I think, but yeah, I definitely think the fights I am expecting to be the big ones. I think are going to be like Luffy versus Smoker, because this is the first time Luffy's encountering a Marine with like a Logia Devil Fruit. All that, someone he can't normally hit. This Mr. Free, because well, the actors from like from Ant-Man and all that stuff, and it's like that might be the highlight of the middle point. Zoro versus like the bounty hunters and Whiskey Peak, the swordsman stuff, and then Luffy versus Wappo, and I guess Chopper also taking part. I think those would be like action-wise the highlights. I think Garp will perhaps maybe appear in one episode, I guess, explaining Baroque works, I guess, with the Marines. And from what I can tell with the teasers, it seems Robin's going to have a bit more of a side role with the Marines taking them out and all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, and it seems like there'll be a few added fights as well, such as Nami I think, fighting Alvida and like Miss Wednesday, which I'm all for. So, but yeah, I think, I think there'll be some subplots and character interactions that will be added that weren't there in the live action. Heck, you had Nami interacting with Kaya for a bit, which I thought was pretty good, and like Garp and Seth. So I expect stuff like that. I think this season will be a bit more faithful than the first season because I think there's a bit more plot lines that are a bit more symmetry that you can adapt a bit more easier, but also subplots you could probably do with Smoker and Tashigi. But yeah, I pretty much expect, of course, most of the stuff to be the same, but with some added Zo, Tashigi, and Miss Sunday.
Yeah.
Let's see subplots. So that's my expectations in season 2, though I suppose. Let's see if there's anything else you think I've left out.
No, I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
Right. Go on.
I suppose you're about ready to wrap to leave now. So I suppose.
Yes. Sorry, streaming this short. Just we could probably do a part 2 at some stage.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess we could do like a top 10 episodes or something, or even do the new stream in season 2. But yeah. But before you go, out of curiosity, how would you score this first season of live action One Piece?
I would say around 7.5, which under my books is not a bad score at all because under my ratings I wouldn't even count 5 out of 10 as bad. But that's the way it generally tends to go for me is 1 to 3 laughably bad, 4 pretty bad, 5 okay passable, 6 decent, and I think 7 up's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd probably give it maybe an 8 out of 10. I think it was pretty good. It had some very good moments. I mean, there's probably some moments I wish they'd done better, but arguably, I think it's a good show, and arguably, it's the first, for many people, the first successful live adaptation of an anime, or at least the first successful adaptation of a live action series done by the West, if you will. But of course, you got Oda's involvement. And many people like it and all that stuff. Though, granted, I do feel like some on the right tried to politicize it of being a show that destroys Hollywood, even though it's got a lot of the diverse casting that they hate, which is a bit ironic. Which, who knows, maybe we'll do a stream on the politics of One Piece, perhaps, down the line. But yeah. Arguably, it's a good show. It helped skyrocket One Piece's popularity. I think it was the number 1 show or at least in the top 10 in 84 countries in Netflix that had Netflix. So, yeah. And the next and the first season is even got some first 2 episodes premiered in the cinema. So that's also a bit of like confidence that Netflix is now on the show. And I'm hoping that this show can go on at the very least until Marineford, maybe even longer, perhaps. But I guess it depends on how many episodes how many story arcs it can adapt seasons, and it also depends on how long Oda's going to take with the manga. Though, if I had to guess, maybe 2032. But
also, yeah. Netflix has been known to be pretty happy in the past, or pretty trigger happy with canceling stuff.
Yeah, so that's arguably the reason, but who knows? But it does seem like they're willing to keep shows on if they remain extremely popular. And some are wondering if One Piece could become the next Stranger Things, I guess, at the very least. At the very least. But at the very least, it has enough content to last years, as long as none of the showrunners, I guess, or actors get burnt out. That one of the showrunners had to leave after the 2nd season for some reason. But hopefully he may be back down the line. But I think they've also got someone else that's known to be really good for adapting shows, at least. For Percy Jackson.
I looked into that guy, Matt Owens. He's worked on stuff like CSI, Lost, X-Files. So he has a good pedigree. Yeah.
And arguably, let's see, they're going to try and keep the quality of the show going along. It may not be an exact adaptation of One Piece, but I think it's the best you can probably get with a live action and adaptation for this stuff. And we'll have to see if other anime and mangas can be able to do other successful or not. But Who knows? But anyway. But anyway, I think we're out of time now. Robin, thank you for watching, and Nat NA, thank you for your comments and taking a look at the show. I hope we were able to persuade you to watch it. And if anyone else watches this, I hope you enjoy what we had to say. But we're going to be leaving now, so bye everyone.
Bye.
And with that, we are off.